I was in it before.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all. Yeah, do requirements to vote.
Right. And I'll sort that out for you in a second.
Is anyone else having scribe issues? So 3 commission members unable to access at the moment.
Michelle, could you jump up?
Right, Ray, Bianca and Paul.
Yes, please.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the WAPC meeting of Wednesday, the 19th of February 2025. I'd like to acknowledge that the meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available for viewing via the Commission's website and on YouTube. Commission members may refer to technical devices and laptops throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. In opening the meeting, I'd like to acknowledge that we meet on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and pay our respects to elders past and present. Apologies for leave of absence. We do not have any apologies today, and we do have a request for leave of absence from Commissioner Shears for the 22nd to the 28th of April inclusive and the 21st of July to the 15th of August inclusive. Members, are there any other requests for leave? Thank you very much. So attending in person today, we have myself, Chair Cole, Commissioner Herron, Deputy Chairperson, Commissioner Adair, Commissioner Bennett, Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Hall, Commissioner Lakey, Commissioner Sandry and Commissioner Shears. And we also are joined by observers today, Director General Anthony Canis, Liam O'Connell and Damien Hills from DUA. Welcome to the meeting. Justin McCurdy may be joining us online. He's online. Welcome, Justin. And Lisette Traves also online. And welcome to DPLH staff and members of the public and deputies. Disclosures of interest. We do have some disclosures today to work through. So on item 3.1, there are 3 disclosures on the draft Jandakot-Treeby District Structure Plan for consent to advertise. Commissioner Herron has declared a direct pecuniary interest in that Commissioner Herron is employed by Urbis, and Urbis's economics team provided advice on the non-residential land use demand component. Commissioner Herron has opted to abstain from the item and will not be present. Also on the same item, Commissioner Bennett has a direct pecuniary interest in that Commissioner Bennett's employer, CLE, acted for Parcel and Agricultural Royal on other projects. And Commissioner Bennett, are you opting to leave the meeting? Thank you very much. And also on that item, Commissioner Lakey has declared a direct pecuniary interest in relation to providing exec support services to Parcel Property and also has elected not to participate in the item. Item 4.1, MRS amendment for lot 709 Armadale Road in Banjup. Commissioner Bennett has declared an indirect pecuniary interest in the Commissioner Bennett's employer, CLE, acts for Mirvac on other projects. Yes. And on that matter, Commissioner Bennett, are you also leaving the meeting? Yes, thank you. On item 4.2, there are 2 declarations. So MRS amendment 1388 of 57 Wattle Grove South Precinct. Commissioner Bennett has declared an indirect pecuniary interest in that Commissioner Bennett's employer, CLE, act for Hesperia on other projects, and I understand you're also moving yourself on that item. Thank you. On the same item, Commissioner Herron has an actual impartiality interest in that Hesperia has been a client in Commissioner Herron's role at Urbis in the last 2 years. Commissioner Heron, I understand you're also removing yourself from this item. On item 4.4, the Perth Convention and Exhibition Centre Precinct Improvement Scheme, Commissioner Heron has declared a direct pecuniary interest in that Commissioner Heron has been engaged to provide advice on this project in his role at Urbis, and understand Commissioner Heron will also be removing on that one. And on the same item, Commissioner Lakey has declared a perceived impartiality interest in that Commissioner Lakey provided project management services for the PCEC project team from May to July, focusing on project management protocols, processes and overseeing consultants without involvement in commercial decisions. I understand that was for Wiley Group, Wiley and Brookfield, and just noting that the applicant today is the DPLH on behalf of the state government. My view on this one is that it would be a perceived impartiality interest, but just seeking the Commissioner's views. If you're happy to support that, thank you, then you're welcome to stay on that item. In relation to item 4.7, WAP's committee minutes, Commissioner Adair has declared a perceived impartiality interest in that she does have, she is part of the consultant team for student accommodation on Stirling Highway, Nedlands, which was the subject of a meeting with the SDRP as minuted. On this item, I have discussed this with Commissioner Adair, and we do note the pecuniary interest, but that given this is noting of minutes of a meeting at which Commissioner Adair was not present and does not have a role, that we would see this as a perceived impartiality interest. Just seeking views from Commission. Happy to proceed on that basis. Thank you very much. And noting an interesting comment in that the WAPC is both a landowner and a decision maker in relation to item 3.2, the improvement scheme development application for the Swan Active Ellenbrook Leisure Centre. And noting that interesting comment is shared by members and is not considered to prejudice our ability to determine the matter impartially. Any other declarations of interest?
I just realised I'm providing some services to Hesperia as well.
Which item?
So they're landowners on in item 4.2.
Okay. So would you say an indirect pecuniary interest, or are you directly?
Very interested, but not on this project.
Okay, and on that one?
I think I should probably step in.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I'll
Noted.
provide more detail.
Thank you very much. Commission members, are there any disclosures of representation where you have been approached by an applicant on an item on today's agenda? Very much. And on item 1.5, declaration of due consideration, can all members please indicate that they have received and considered the agenda ahead of today's meeting? Thank you very much. And questions from members and responses from DPLH staff. On this item, we do have tabled at item 1.5.1 responses to questions from Commissioner Bennett, but noting that we have had further questions. Thank you for tabling those, but we will come to those verbally. We'll discuss with officers today. So in relation to item 1.6, confirmation of previous minutes, this is for our meeting of the 22nd of January 2025. Were there any comments in relation to the minutes? Happy to support. So please have a mover and seconder to adopt the minutes. Moved by Commissioner Hall, seconded by Commissioner Brooks. Any dissent? Carried. Thank you. So we'll move to deputations and presentations. Today we do have 6 in-person deputations and 2 written deputations. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. I welcome everyone that's present this morning in order to make a deputation to the Western Australian Planning Commission in person or via Zoom. You will be invited to join the table or promoted to a panel via Zoom to deliver your deputation this morning. You have been advised of your allocated time, which will be managed through a timer, which will appear on the screen, which will count down that allocated time. If you have a PowerPoint presentation this morning, this will be displayed on the screen throughout your deputation, and you're requested to advise us as you wish to advance the slides. So just moving on to our first deputation this morning, on item 3.1 on the agenda, the draft Jandakot Treaty District Structure Plan, we're welcoming Jeremy Cordelia of Castle Property via Zoom. Good morning, Jeremy. If you can hear us, could you please turn your video on so we may see you on the screen?
Good morning. Sorry, is that working?
Yes, thanks very much and welcome this morning. Over to you when you're ready. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I just wanted to start with the historic context, and that's really my key point for today's deputation is the timeframe that we've been on this journey for. We initially lodged a MRS amendment to Urban back in, 2017. Parcel owns about a 40-hectare site within the Treeby DSP area. Shortly after that, in 2018, the area was shown as planning investigation under the sub-regionals. And we were working on the groundwater as the key issue of objection throughout that the first 3-year period. And then we issued an updated MRS amendment in 2021. A groundwater and impact assessment was undertaken by the state in 2022, and then in 2023, the area was shown as urban expansion. We were subsequently requested to undertake a DSP over the whole area with Argyle Royal, and the two land holdings constitute about 20-odd% of the entire site. We had an initial tag meeting in 2023, and we updated our DSP to reflect these changes in December of 2023, with the expectation that we would be at a commission meeting early in 2024 for advertising. However, following that first tag, we had a second tag meeting where it was clear to me that a number of the authorities weren't prepared for that second meeting, and there are a number of additional items that were raised what appeared to be sort of in the moment. Following that, we have received confirmation or agreement on the adjustment to the Bush Forever boundary on our site, which has allowed that area to be accurately shown on the DSP. And we now sit here today requesting the approval for this site to be advertised. I suppose my key point really is this time frame. So 2017 to 2025 being 8 years, we consider this site to be effectively infill with all of the employment, land, transport, and community infrastructure in place, and so you've raised concerns about the time that it's taken to get here, and request that it be pushed through quickly from here on in.
Jeremy, it's Emma Cole, Chair. Thank you for your deputation. I'll just see whether members have any questions for you. Members, questions for Jeremy? Go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Jeremy, just wondering if you have, if you support or agree with the schedule of modifications that have been proposed as part of this?
Yeah, we'd support the modifications that have been proposed. I suppose the point that I didn't have time to make in my deputation is that there are a number of areas within the site, or 80% of the site for that matter, that we don't have access to, and there are still vast tracts of vegetation that require further investigation by others at a later date. So that's probably the biggest impact on this DSP, and I understand that's where a lot of those modifications come from.
Members, any further questions? Okay, thank you very much, Jeremy. We appreciate your deputation today.
Thank you.
The next deputation is on the same item, item 3.1 from Rod Dixon from Chris Green, who are joining us via Zoom this morning. Morning, Rod and Chris.
Morning.
Welcome to the commission meeting. Over to you to deliver your deputation when you're ready. Thank you.
Madam Chair and Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to provide this deputation. Next slide. Jeremy Cordine has just touched on a lot of the history to this. This slide outlines it in summary form, and I take your attention primarily to the year 2023 there, when the land was brought into urban expansion area under the sub-regional planning framework. And it's important to note that that reflected a detailed review at that time, including work by Synergy's economics consultants on behalf of the state government, to inform state cabinet's view of this area, and led to the Commission supporting urban expansion. So a lot of work leading up to and inform the commencement of this DSP. As the table outlines, from 23 on, we've worked somewhat arduously through a process to get to this point. I do commend the department staff on their management of that, and I just make the point that a DSP needs to consider the area and can't solve all the contextual matters, nor can it take on all the detail within the DSP that might be covered in future steps. Please.
Yeah, so these are just some of the, I guess, the DSP highlights, and you can see they're listed there that we think that almost 4,500 lots, 16 kilometres from Perth CBD. We think this is the largest urban growth expansion area close to a capital city across Australia. Obviously, in support of that future population growth, another 12,000 people, we provided 4 primary schools, a high school, 2 district sporting ovals, a neighbourhood centre, and development is very much centred around 4 planned precincts. It's important to acknowledge that those 3 primary schools are basically driven by a need in the broader area, and the high school provide that for that wider area. Go to the next slide, please. And here you can see spatially the DSP. You can see its long linear nature, the 4 precincts we've got throughout there, the road network that leverages existing roads and connects to existing infrastructure, recently upgraded Jandakot Road. And whilst there are significant areas of investigation area, you'll see in the next slide that we've looked at those, and they're basically subject to either significant native vegetation or wetlands. So that really then does guide the future stages. And if we go to the next slide. You can see there the 4 precincts and the anticipated development timeframes. And if we go to the next one, you can see there's a lot of work still to come. So we've got to go through the mods, get to public advertising, and there's a lot of more detailed structured planning work to follow. That's it. And just want to thank you for that. The next slide. And again, yeah, just thanks for having us.
Thank you very much, Rod and Chris. Emma Kohler, Chair. I will just see whether we have questions from Commission members. Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Adair.
Thank you, Rod and Chris. I'm just under 2.1.3 contamination in the draft document. There's been a bit of discussion internally here about the PFAS contamination, and it's kind of glossed over. Would you like to discuss that any further with us, just to tell us what investigation, if any, has been done?
So our understanding is there is a Commonwealth-led investigation of that across various sites across Australia, including Jandakot Trevi, including Jandakot Airport. We have reached out through the department to try and get details regarding mapping and other things on that. It wasn't forthcoming. Our understanding is that within the DSP area, we're below the thresholds for PFAS, but there are some higher concentrations on the airport, and that's all the information that we have at the minute on that.
Okay, so would there be any consideration to remediating that, even though you think it's below? Would you just, if further examinations required, which is basically what your document says at the moment?
Yeah, so for each of the local structure plan precincts, there is a requirement to investigate that further, obviously in those areas that are probably in close proximity, and obviously depending on the findings of that Commonwealth study, as that progresses, we'll obviously respond to that in due course.
Yeah,
The issue
okay.
would only impact precincts 1 or 2. And as we understand it, it's not likely to prohibit urban residential development in that thresholds are below, but nonetheless, it requires further investigation. We do acknowledge that.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to conclude, why I'm asking is because that Commonwealth investigation may be about airport land, which of course it is, but this is outside the airport land. They may be the polluter, but at the end of the day, it's outside their land. Anyway, it's an ongoing discussion. Thank you.
Rod and Chris, just check if there's any further questions. Commissioner Hall, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just curious to know if the city has a position on the cost sharing arrangement for common infrastructure that will be required to be provided in this area.
Ultimately, the need for example, a development contribution scheme will have to be looked at. The project moves forward. It has come up in discussion, but beyond that, I can't comment.
Commissioners, any further questions? No? Okay, thank you very much, Rod and Chris. Appreciate your deputation today.
Thank you very much.
The next deputation on the same item, item 3.1, is from the City of Cockburn, and we welcome David Reynolds, Tim Clark and Gary Wilkinson via Zoom. Good morning, David. If you can hear me, can you please turn your video on so we may see you?
Hello, can you see me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much and welcome to the Commission meeting this morning. Over to you when you're ready. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, on behalf of the City, I'd like to thank the Department, its officers and all parties involved in preparation of the draft DSP. It's a challenging area with a lot of hard work still to go. In summary, the City supports the recommendation to proceed to advertising following further modification. The City is especially keen for the plan to be released for broader consideration, noting the strong interest by many landowners not involved in its preparation. The focus of today's deputation is the suitability of the community needs assessment, not attached to the agenda, and the basis on which the need to identify 2 3.5 hectare district open space areas has been derived. With respect, the City questions the author's expertise and understanding of community infrastructure planning. Having recently sourced and reviewed the report, the City considers it to include insufficient analysis to represent a proper assessment. In particular, there is no reference to the Livable Neighbourhoods Provision Standard. The PLA WA guidelines for provision are incorrectly quoted and applied. No assessment against community infrastructure other than sporting. Little reference of analysis of guiding documents like the City's Community Infrastructure Plan, which actually identifies a future shortfall of active POS. Despite raising the City of Armidale, no measure or assessment against their provision standards or guidelines or its relevance to this assessment. No assessment or interrogation of the person per household measure used to ensure the DSP population, and the map contains notable errors and omissions. In short, the report lacks the robustness necessary to meet the evidentiary requirements of State Planning Policy 3.6 for a developer contribution plan to be prepared. The City's concerns are further amplified by use of a 2.7 household size below the size adjacent growth suburbs like Harrisdale and Piara Waters at 3.2, or even older suburbs like Atwell at 3, Auburn Grove at 3.1, or Canning Vale at 3.3. This is supported by the city's specialist demographer, Remplan, who in their 2024 annual review forecasted a household size of 3.07 by 2036. A relatively low 10 to 20% contingency being applied to the 190 hectares of rural residential land that may still be capable of development pending further site-specific investigation, and the additional housing and population that will be generated by a conversion of the proposed mixed business precinct to residential. Given its fundamental impact on the DSP and the need for potential DCP items to be identified as early in the planning process as possible, it is the city's view that a more thorough analysis needs to be prepared ahead of advertising, as it hopes is the intention of modification 17, but without the predetermined outcome currently included in recommended modification 4.7 of attachment 5. There are notable sociable and operational benefits, cost and land efficiencies in providing a consolidated district facility. However, if the city's preference for a 7 to 8 hectare dedicated site accommodating 2 ovals and complementary facilities is considered unrealistic, the city is willing to consider a broader distribution of the district function across the DSP area. But if it involves standalone sites, they will need to be increased to 4.5 hectares to ensure functionality, unless land for other district level community infrastructure is provided elsewhere. The city would happily discuss this and other options akin to the models that have been adopted and work well within the Trevi DSP area immediately to the south via an updated assessment process. With me today is the city's Community Infrastructure Manager, Tim Clark, who reviewed the report and can provide context on its own preliminary assessment and respond to any technical queries you may have. Thank you greatly for your time and consideration of this very important matter.
Thank you very much, David. It's Nicole, the chair here. Thanks for your deputation today. We note your request in relation to district open space size or the broader function of POS across the DSP area. Commission members, are there questions? Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I'm just wondering, at what stage was this information provided to the applicant, and what was their response?
To the applicant, do you mean the city? Sorry, Ron.
Row Group.
To the proponent of the district structure plan.
Well, the proponent would be DPLH. I'm not sure when they received it. When we got the notice for the agenda, we saw references to a report. We then immediately contacted DPLH and managed to source a copy, and have spent the last 2 days poring over it and trying to work out how best to discuss our concerns.
For clarification, so are you saying you haven't provided this information directly to Row Group at all?
No. Around Christmas, after the second tag, we reached out to Row Group and offered assistance with resolving the matter. We have provided copies of some preliminary analysis that our recreation services team had provided, and since that time we have heard nothing more until the agenda notification came out.
Commission members, any questions? Look, thank you very much for the issues that you've raised. We can raise those points when we come to discuss this item with the DPLH team. So we have noted your concerns down and appreciate your deputation today. Thank you.
May I say, like, due to time constraints, we do have some ideas on how district and local function can be resolved in a challenging area. We just look forward to the opportunity to be able to share and discuss those with DPLH and the proponent, in a more collaborative manner, if I may say.
Sorry, just one final question then. Can I just ask, you've had the couple of days to look at this. Have you provided anything in writing back to DPLH ahead of today's meeting?
No, we amongst the many other things that the people in this room have been trying to do in the last 2 days, our focus has been on trying to present the information in a manner that worked best under the constraints of deputation.
Look, that's fine. You've made your deputation today. I just wanted to clarify whether you also had provided written, but that's fine. We'll take your deputation and information contained for discussion on this item. Thank you.
We would happily provide further info if the opportunity exists.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
So we'll welcome back in. Thank you. Our next deputation, which is on item 3.2 on the agenda, the improvement development application. Swan Active Ellenbrook Leisure Centre at lot 12062 Custom Way. Jane Redford, Jamie Brake. Yes.
Good morning, can you hear me?
I can, thanks very much. Welcome, Jane. Are you expecting Samantha and Jamie to join you this morning?
No, I'll just be presenting by myself. They'll be, they're actually going to be just viewing this as I present. Thank you, Madam Chair, for this opportunity to make this deputation. I'm really here just on behalf of the city representing the project team. I'm the senior project manager for the project, and the city really just wanted to state our full support for the application. The project is also supported and funded by state and federal government departments. And the City of Swan feel like this will be a fantastic facility for the whole of the Ellenbrook community and will provide wide-ranging, high-quality leisure sport facilities across the region. And we also wanted to state that we support the proposed conditions. Really, that was the very brief statement I wanted to say, and I just wanted to note that we're available for any questions.
Jane, good morning. It's Emma Cole, Chair here. Thank you very much for being available to us this morning. I did just want to ask a question in relation to this item in relation to the time that is being granted for substantial commencement. Thank you, Jane. You have been given the recommendation is 2 years. I had wondered whether that would be whether more time would be welcomed.
Well, we're actually trying to build this before the end of 2027. So I think 2 years will be okay. We're looking at tendering the works this year. So no, I think we'll be okay within that 2-year time frame.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Commission members' questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Sandry.
Thank you. What was the actual total construction of cost for the development?
The estimate for the total cost is set at about 90 million at the moment at a construction cost.
Okay. And just for clarification, it kind of speaks to Chair Cole's question. Is that money currently budgeted for? So in order for it to actually progress in the 2 years?
Yes, we've got 108.9 million total project cost budgeted in the current city budgets, partly obviously funded by federal and state government, but the rest is coming from the city itself.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brooks.
I was just wondering if you could outline what sustainability measures have been built into the design, thinking in particular in relation to energy and water efficiency.
Sure. We're looking to get an equivalency of a 5-star Green Star rating. We're not going for the full assessment. And within that, we have got proposed a 600 kilowatt solar array. The entire building is going to be electric, no gas, with air source heat pumps, basically providing the heating for the pools and cooling for the building, with the solar panels obviously providing a portion of that energy demand. With water, we're recycling the water from the roof and using that to top up the pools. And we're also recovering the heat from all of the shower water and the break tank water, so that none of that energy is wasted as it leaves the building. Does that answer your question? I think we do have quite a few more smaller things we're doing within the building, like improving the building envelope and things like that.
And the other element of that is associated with the landscaping surrounding the buildings. Will that incorporate water sensitive urban design principles?
Yes, it will, and we're looking at having swales throughout the car parks and a lot of trees planted through there. And yes, we've got a water sensitive urban design report, and we're implementing all of the items within that. 5 million of our budget has come from our sustainability pot within the city. And so that has ensured that none of these items are being removed from the scope.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if, given that the site's right next door to the train station, can people actually walk, once it's built, will people be able to walk through the building to access the train station?
They would be able to walk through the foyer. There'll be free access to the foyer. You don't need to pay to access the foyer, for example. So they could walk through if they would like to from the houses to the north. Obviously, it will be open only during the hours of operation, though. That would be closed during the night time mainly.
Commission members, any further questions? Well, thank you very much, Jane. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
The next deputation this morning is on item 4.1 on the agenda, the MRS amendment at lot 709 Armadale Road, Boundary, welcoming Frank Arangio, David Mario Ambelletgesti in person this morning, and we welcome you to join the commission at the table. Thank you.
Sorry, just before we do have the deputation welcome, please do take a seat. Just to note that I have had a declaration of interest from Commissioner Sandry in that Marino Evangelist and is known to her personally, professionally and personally, and is declaring a perceived impartiality interest.
To clarify, not a direct family member to me, but I know a direct family of Marino Evangelist.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you for the opportunity of deputation today. As the introduction suggested, I'm Dave Parsons from Mirvac. We have Frank Arangio from CDP and Marino Evangelisti from Associates. And just want to thank everyone, the Commission, the officers and DPLH in considering the merits of today's proposal. Lot 709 Boundary provides a unique opportunity to transform some underutilised land. And I guess what we have seen is the popularity of Cockburn Central locality grow, and we see this as providing a logical extension to the Treeby urban front. And importantly, as the technical report suggests, there's a lot of housing supply that will be predominantly exhausted in the next 4 years. Mirvac has been progressing this project now since 2022, and we have demonstrated that the site is unique and it constitutes a special circumstance with respect to its size, single land ownership, importantly its absence to environmental value, and importantly its ability to leverage off the existing and established infrastructure. So we are committed to demonstrate how Lot 709 Boundary can achieve an exciting urban consolidation, and I'll hand over to Frank to talk through the particulars.
Good morning, colleagues and commissioners. Marino and I have had form on the Jandakot now since 2008. We were basically some of the key team members in delivering the Kalia project plus Dockland. We also, like the DSP to the north, have been on an extensive journey. We have intently been looking at the justification and crossing a lot of different disciplines to do so in justifying this proposal. We've had no less than 12 key meetings since October 2022 and October 2024 with key government stakeholders in particular. Just to be clear, that the planning frameworks high-level guide that were formulated about 6 years ago, and there's been some unprecedented stuff occurring like COVID and the housing crisis in recent times. So they can't really be held up as the only guide or the only consideration for complementing the housing stock. So rational proposals outside of the frameworks can and have been considered by this commission. Now, the site is unique in many ways. It's 47 hectares. It's denuded. There is an absence of environmental value, David said, and it is very close to existing considerable infrastructure. All the reporting explains that in more detail. I won't repeat it here. Conversely, areas surrounding us are a bit more constrained, smaller land holdings, well vegetated, similar to the issues that the DSP area to the north has had, which I'll touch upon a bit later on. Now, the proposal is supported. We've done extensive engineering analysis, and we have confirmed that the site can be serviced at no cost to government. The EPA, we met with the then chairman, Mr. Tonks, in April of 2023. There was comfort in that the site was denuded. Obviously, the key issue would always be the groundwater, obviously being a priority 2 area under the Jandakot water mount. In terms of that, DUA obviously has not supported any urbanisation, i.e. Transferring the land from P2 to P3, but that's a consistent stance by DUA, and we appreciate that. They've had the same stance in all other proposals over the mount in the last 15 years, dating back to Kalia. Now, just for the record, there is a groundwater extraction bore near the site. It's J70. That bore accounts for between 1% and 2% of the entire extraction from the Jandakot Mount. Just concluding, pretty important, it's very opportune actually that we also on the same agenda as the Jandakot Treeby DSP or urban expansion area, because that area there, from the reporting undertaken, is some 580 hectares in size, but there's only 280 hectares that's currently being considered for urbanisation, because the rest of the site, including about 190 hectares of rural residential development, is constrained. It's constrained by remnant vegetation, TECs, wetlands, and potentially aircraft noise. Look, at the end of the day, if I can leave you with this, we've got a double whammy. Our analysis has shown that Cockburn is very popular. The population and lot demand take-up in Cockburn has exceeded initial expectations and forecasts by 65%. And the other issue we have, the other double whammy, which I just mentioned, is that we have a deficiency potentially in the area of urban originally perceived for the Jandakot Treeby DSP area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank, David and Marino. Thanks for joining us today. Commission members, questions? Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I just want to get clarification on what it is that you're actually requesting or proposing in terms of the MRS amendment.
We're proposing to have 47 hectares of denuded land considered for rezoning to urban deferred under a complex MRS amendment process. We know there's still work to do. Obviously, hearing what's happened to the DSP to the north, which is actually in the frameworks, there's a lot of ringers to go through, a lot of layers. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in, and we accept that, and we're here to work our way through it.
I could just clarify, so you're it's satisfactory to you for this to be considered as a complex amendment?
Well, we'd like to be obviously simple for terms of timing, because we do have a housing crisis. But look, it's 47 hectares. There's an easy add-on to what's happening to the north, especially in light of day that there is a deficiency potentially in that area. Look, 20 k's from the city, 3 k's from billions of dollars of infrastructure around Cockburn Central, train lines, two train stations within proximity, and we have the updated and upgraded Armidale Road as well. And there's great things happening. There's a lot of social infrastructure. Cockburn did a fantastic job in terms of the Cockburn Arc and what have you. That's all within proximity. So I'm trying to be a rational planner, and I think as a planner I think of things generally. I'm also worried about the future generations, and there's always technical issues on every project that we have. And so it's working with professionals in this room to work our way through it. And on that context, I'd like to thank particularly the senior officers that we've been dealing with in the Department of Planning. They've been supportive, they get it, and they've provided us with some great guidance.
Thank you, Frank. Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Sandry.
Thank you, and thank you for your deputation. In terms of the talk about the housing crisis, how long will it take to deliver these lots?
Well, it's up to us in this room to answer that question, because it's a process. We all know that. Look, if we get the MRO sorted out within 2 years, I'd suggest that we can probably have earth moving in about 3.5 years' time. That's how long it takes, because you've got to go through rezonings and structure plans, etc. Can that be brought forward? Absolutely, but we have to be working together. We've also got one of the great developers in Mirvac. They're not a backyard operation. They're a nationally publicly listed company who've got a track record of delivering great stuff. And to that point, as a case in point, just go and see the first stages of the Henley Brook subdivision. One of the great integrations of vegetation and landform in an urban environment.
We're obviously familiar with the area. We've delivered out of Piara Waters there, so that's recently completed. So we see this as a very much a logical extension of providing some much needed housing.
Thank you. And in terms of servicing, the suggestion no cost to government, could you elaborate on that a bit further, please?
How are you going to ask that?
That's a very, very good question. So the site is, in terms of major headworks, is surrounded by them. So you name it and it's there. The option, then there's multiple options. I'll just talk on one of these, and that is sewer. Sewer has always been a major driver from when I first was involved in the Rinka site in 2007, which is now Kalia. It was so important an exercise that, in fact, my team was engaged to do all the design work on behalf of Water Corporation. So I know the constraints very, very well. Presently, when we did what we call a scoping study, and interestingly, the PIA Treeby Jandakot area was part of that scoping study, it assumed a certain number of lots would be serviced by 2 major pump stations in Kalia. They're known as the Clementine Street pump stations. At that time, we put in 1 Type 90, always planning for a second Type 90 to occur when the greater area was developed. Now, the interesting point and why I'm labouring on this is that we made some significant assumptions at the time when I did my calculations that all the land in the scoping study would be at a density of R30. This is before any vegetation issues, public open space issues, wetland issues removed that capacity. So does the current Type 90 sufficient to be able to accommodate this land? You bet it is. You also have the stockland and the Sadley land to the east of the and northeast of the project was never part of the scoping area either. That can be readily accommodated. So my short, long answer, Commissioner, is the critical piece of infrastructure can easily be accommodated. In terms of our 700 lots, all we have to do is put in 1 small pump station and 400 metres of rising main to connect to that system. So technically, it's a no-brainer. It's also an insignificant cost for the project overall. To keep it also in context, that second Type 90 that we always plan to put in is only at worst a $2.5 million exercise. When we look at the value of the land that we're releasing, either be it the PIA Treeby Jandakot or the land that Sadley and Stockland is putting in play in our own, insignificant, surely only a rounding error. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Sorry, Commissioner, 2 more questions. Chair, the extraction bore, is there any view on what would happen to that?
Yeah, I'll answer that. It's okay. So J70, so as has already been mentioned by my colleagues, is a 1.57% extraction capacity of Jandakot. That's the number for the last 10 years. When we did Kalia, we had a similar scenario. We've actually have 2 bores in Kalia, which have been happily extracting away for the last 15 years since we started the project. And may I also extend that forward exercise that there has been extraction bores at Atwell that have been extracting since I was involved in that project in 1990, 35 years. So we expect on a risk basis that J70 can easily do exactly the same that it's done in all those other sites for, in some cases, 35 years, and will continue abstracting.
Thank you. And one last thing, there was, as part of the deputation, there was a note that there's a potential deficit in urban land in this corridor. Is there any further information on that?
Yes, so we had a technical report undertaken by Urbis, which did a full sort of housing supply shortfall there, and it was indicated, I guess, that within sort of the next 4 years of what the trading estates would be relatively actually be traded out for. So we're indicating that shortfall around 2030 to 2031.
Thank you, Commissioner Sandry. Covered off some very good questions there. Commissioner Brooks.
Just one question. Would the connection to the sewer system be provided as part of stage 1? Or would there be some staging to be worked through on that?
We'd be delivering on a stage process, but it's a key piece of infrastructure. So it would be required for stage 1. So we'd most probably do the ultimate solution. It's much more economic to do that. So it'll be built pretty early on, basically right up front, to service the first, how many would we put out? 150 lots? 150 lots.
Any further questions?
I've just got a little bit of information on the lot take up that's happening in Coburn. So analysis we've got, and I take independently, said that they suggested that the 7 estates have sold out in that Treeby area, in that Treeby, Jandakot, Kalia area. 2023, 2024. And there's another 3 that are expected to sell out by this year, 2025. All active estates in the area are expected to sell out by 2030, 31. So if we're on board in 3.5 years' time, that'll be a nice little, potential, 700 lots that we can add to the demand that obviously is depleted by that stage.
And I guess just on to Frank's comment there as well, lot 709 offers the opportunity for an additional 10% of that future forward supply within the catchment. So it's a significant share.
Heron.
Well, through the chair, I first of all need to clarify. So the report that you mentioned about Urbis, that was commissioned specifically for this site?
Yes.
In that case, I'm going to have to declare an interest. I was unawares.
Thank you, Commissioner Heron.
If possible, though, can I just... No, I will leave it alone.
Can I just ask a question? I thought that Praxis had done the economic assessment for this.
They have. Praxis did the cost.
Where has Urbis come into play in relation to this item?
Urbis did a residential lot analysis for us. Sorry,
a residential assessment analysis, which was part of our attachment in December.
In the report, so
apologies.
So stepping out on this one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just coming back to the extraction bore, because I think this will be discussed. We have Drew in the room. I just wanted to clarify in terms of your perspective that you're saying that you believe that this can still operate in terms of planned layout in the future, in terms of the land use that you're sort of thinking about that buffer area. Is that your perspective in relation to the continuation?
That's correct, Madam Chair. So our view is that can keep on doing what it's doing on the basis that if we do a risk exercise, which we have done in our submission, I think, in the DWMS, we are putting many, many layers of protection to that system, just like we were asked to do on other sites in the area. So it's a belt and braces approach that we are taking. Not only with a zone of protection, the subdivision itself is all WSUD standard, and we'll have a whole lot of other risk management techniques employed so that can keep on pumping away verily for who knows how long. until it starts affecting the wetlands which are adjacent to it.
Okay, thank you. I think that's an important clarification, given that in the report we do have information from Water Corp that turning off the wellhead would be magnitude $6 to $12 million. So thank you for that clarification.
I think it's always, just to, if I can, it's what I call a blunt instrument approach to assume that bore has to be switched off.
Okay.
Because there's only been one other instance that I'm aware of in the last 5 years where they've needed to do that, and that is the bore which is affected by PFAS in the PIA Trevi Jandakot area.
Okay, thank you.
The other fact is that the Jandakot Mound only contributes 2%, maybe 3%, at a stretch of the entire water supply, public drinking water supply for the Perth region. Only 2 to 3%. So this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, noted. Thank you very much. Are there any further questions? Let's go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
I've seen in the report that City of Cockburn did not support the proposal. I'm just wondering what engagement you've had with them.
Good question. We engaged. So I personally had a meeting with Dan Arndt and some senior officers in the months leading up to our submission of the MRS amendment in late 23. And to be honest, the discussion went, well, look, this is not in the frameworks. We need to be led by the Commission before we can seriously entertain the proposal. And I think that's been the clear directive and messaging we've received from most government agencies. So other than try and get them to change their opinions and sway them, we thought we'd do the technical analysis and let the proposal stand on its own merits.
Thank you. And I think it's fair to say as well from that recent submission back that the City of Cockburn obviously acknowledged the merits of the proposal as well and the uniqueness of it as well.
They acknowledge that it makes sense, but
there's other broader considerations.
Any further questions, Commissioners? All right, well, thank you very much for your deputation. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll come back, Commissioner Bennett. We will just welcome our next deputation, which is on item 4.3 on the agenda, the amendment number 0070 at Part Lot Southwestern Highway Glen Iris. The recommendation to the Minister, and we welcome Donna Dwyer and Anne Dixon via Zoom. Good morning, Donna. Can you hear us? You are muted, and if there's the capacity for you to turn on your video, that would be appreciated so we may see you. Good morning, Donna. Can you hear us? Connected via Zoom, but it appears that we might be having some technical issues, so I'll just give her a call.
Thank you, Sam. It's probably also worth noting that we do have the two written deputations on this item, and Dixon has also provided a written deputation at item 2.7.
Hello, is that Donna? Hello, is that Donna? Hello, Donna. Good, thank you. My name's Sam Boucher. I'm at the WA Planning Commission. I did just attempt to have you join the Commission meeting this morning via Zoom to deliver a deputation on item 4.3 on the Commission's agenda this morning. We seem to have run into some technical issues there, and I can no longer see you on the Zoom. Would you like to deliver your deputation over the phone this morning? Would that be most convenient to you? That's fine. What I'll do is I'll put you on loudspeaker now and invite you to deliver your deputation, noting that you do have a PowerPoint presentation this morning. It will be, oh no, sorry, they've just told me you don't have a presentation. So all good. I'll put you on speakerphone now. Thanks, Donna. You're on speakerphone now, Donna. So over to you when you're ready. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I essentially don't have anything else to bring forward. I just wanted to make it known that the residents, I'm representing the residents, and we've got a lot of signatures against this amendment. I just wanted to make that known that there's a lot of people that don't support this decision.
Thank you very much, Anne. It's Emma Cole here. I'm the chair of the WAPC. I also just wanted to note that we have received your written deputation.
Oh, sorry, this is Donna and Anne. We're both together, but Anne's at work, unable to speak.
Okay. Sorry, Donna, my mistake. Thank you very much. So we have received those 2 written deputations, which do seem to align with yours and outline the matters in more detail. Is there anything that you wish to add in terms of your concerns?
No, not at this stage, just what we've written up and sent through. Thank you. We just appreciate you reading that and looking through it.
Okay, thank you, Donna. I'll just see if the commission members have any questions for you.
No worries, thank you.
There are no questions, but we appreciate your written deputations and your time today. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so given that we've also mentioned the written deputations today, that does bring the deputations to a close for today. Commission members, I will suggest that we have a short adjournment at this point because we do need to consider some legal advice and we will need to do that in camera. So at this point, we will have a short 5-minute break and then come back for legal advice before we resume the open meeting. Okay, thank you all. moved, seconded by Commissioner Hall. Any dissent? Thank you.
Begin.
Thank you very much for rejoining the WAPC meeting. We have just had a very brief adjournment and a confidential session to consider legal advice in relation to item 3.1. We are now at item 3.1 for discussion, draft Jandakot Treeby District Structure Plan, consent to advertise. And I welcome to the table Justin, Aidan, Lucy and Sam. Lucy and Sam are observing, so we have Aidan and Justin attending in person. Thank you. Thank you very much for the report provided, and noting that there have been deputations on this item. Is there anything you wish to raise in advance of taking questions from members?
Thank you, Chair. Probably just a couple of things. Just to clarify some of the dates as it related to the tags. It's probably a relatively minor matter, but there were a number of pre-tag meetings. But the first formal tag was April 2024. It wasn't in 2023. The comments by the city as it relates to district open space and the report that they had not seen. I suppose there was a bit of a delay in relation to that because the report was ready for pre-Christmas and it got pulled to put onto the WAPC. So that was the reason why the report was a slight delay with some of the associated documents. That said, modification 17, which relates to the document they're talking about, and modification 4 addresses all the points they need to have addressed as a part of modifications for advertising. They did make one comment in relation to the 3.5 hectare district open space. That was a constant number discussed through the tag meetings and does appear to be consistent with previous district open space. However, perhaps we could recommend taking off that size in modification 4 and putting further clarity in modification 17, that consultation with the City of Cockburn about appropriate district open space size, which can reflect back into that modification 4.
So changing modification 17 and removing the wording from modification 4?
Yeah.
All right, Chair, can I just clarify? I didn't understand that it was to remove the part in 4. It was to keep that there, but 17 be modified so that the two are connected.
Through the chair, yeah. Well, modification 4 actually prescribes in brackets 2 3.5 hectare district open space components. The city has raised a concern with that particular mandated size and says that needs to be reflected from the community needs assessment, which you've got as a modification as well to work through that document. So I suppose the easiest way is to say that is add a bit onto that modification 17 in consultation with the City of Cockburn.
On the size of those?
On the size of the district open space.
So you're removing it from 4?
Yes, just the size, yeah.
So just removing the brackets to 3.5 hectare district open space.
And we'll go through that with the city.
I think that.
Gotcha.
I think we're of the opinion that that was the main points raised in the deputations.
Thank you. Commission members, questions for the officers?
That's covered my question.
Covered everything? Yep, I think that was the key point from the city. So what we'll do is we'll deal with these as a series of amendments because we have a few foreshadowed. So can I just get a mover and seconder that we move forward with the resolution before us first? Moved by Commissioner Adair, seconded by Commissioner Shears. Thank you very much. And now dealing with amendments. Thank you, Commissioner Adair.
Is that okay as a mover?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to move a modified amendment to the modifications. Modification 4. What are they? I haven't got it up with, are the brackets of 2 3.5 hectare district open space.
Yes.
And modification, amendment, modification 17 to add the words in consultation with the City of Cockburn in relation to the size of district open space.
Thank you. Seconded. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Commissioner Sandry. Sorry. Any dissent or discussion? Okay, is that adopted? Yes, thank you very much. We're back to this amended substantive motion.
Yep, I'm happy to, do you want to move that?
Go ahead.
Don't have to.
Oh, I'm happy. I'm happy.
To move, as on the screen.
Yes.
I'll pop it on the screen. Yep. Yes. Do you want me to read it out?
Can you read that, Megan?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So a point 4 be added to the resolution, an additional modification to require investigation during advertising and before further consideration by the WAPC on the process for identifying potential PFAS contamination in the DSP area and remediation options where required. Evidence and research to be provided by a suitably qualified expert, including whether urbanisation is appropriate.
Thank you. And a seconder for that. Thank you very much, Commissioner Brooks. Is there any discussion? Any dissent? That's carried. So we have now an amended substantive motion before us. Is there any dissent, or before I ask, are there any further amendments or discussion? Yes, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair. So in attachment 5, modification number 7, there's a statement in there that proposes to refer to what the WAPC may do in the future, and I just think that wording is not appropriate. So I'd just like to move a motion that be reworded. I did send through to Commission support the wording. It's in highlight in yellow, which I'll read. So I suggest it changes from the WAPC may support residential development at a density greater than R20, subject to the requirements of SPP 5.3 being met and a detailed noise assessment being provided. So changing that to residential development at a density greater than R20 would need to meet the requirements of SPP 5.3, including the detailed noise being provided that confirms the site suitability.
Any comments from the officers?
Through the chair, we've addressed that question and basically indicated we've got no issues.
Right, thank you. Is that seconded? Commissioner Sandry seconding. Any discussion? Any dissent? That's carried. Any further amendments or discussion?
I guess I think I'd just like to make a comment, I suppose, with this one. Acknowledging the significant strategic process that has been undertaken for this particular item. It's been a whole of government process that's been followed through for a number of years, looking at the economic, social and environmental implications of this structure plan and this location. So that's what this is. It's the culmination of several years of strategic process done across government. So I just think it's important for us to acknowledge that with this particular.
Thank you, Commissioner Brooks. That's very well said. I think that actually goes to the first deputation in terms of some of the timing issues. It really goes to the complexity of the issues that have been considered here and that they have been done in that very comprehensive way. Are there any further amendments or discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Chair. So just again in attachment 5, modifications number 6 and 8 refers to Bush Forever Site 381. And there's some commentary around that agreements have not been reached yet over the finalisation of some boundary changes. And I just would like some more information on how that will be managed in the context of the recommendation for today.
Through the chair, I'll get Aidan to read out our response to that question.
Justin, through the chair, the department's officers have agreed a position with the landowners in relation to the potential realignment of the boundary of the Bush Forever site. That will need to be subject to a future formal MRS amendment process to give effect to those realignments. and that process will need to follow the DSP process.
In that case, Chair, I'd like to propose a amendment because the current proposal is that no agreement has been reached. So if that's not the case, then I think we need to update number 6. It's contrary. Proposed to remove the words, however, no agreement has been reached from number 6.
Aidan, you have a comment?
If I may, through the chair.
Lots of hands going up.
Although there's no formal agreement with the commission, there is agreement at officer level for the boundary realignments to take place. The Bush Forever team within the strategy and engagement division here at the department has been liaising with Parcel Property quite extensively on that specific matter for a number of years now. And the discussion in the report was prepared in consultation with that team and reflects the conclusion that those discussions have reached at this point.
But just for clarity, is Parcel Property, are they satisfied with the position of the department?
There's a figure attached to the report. I think it's attachment 10 that shows the intended realignment areas coming in and going out. That has been run past or prepared in consultation with Parcel Property, and they are aware of that proposal. They have already signed the draft agreement, which is being held pending further progression on the DSP process and MRS amendment processes being undertaken.
Thank you.
So ask a question on that. I still feel that the wording is not correct to have no agreement has been reached as a part of a document like this. I think it would be better to say the landowner is to continue to liaise with the department in relation to the boundary, in relation to lot that, rather than, and take out the however no agreement has been reached, because this is a document that's going out and it just doesn't read well to me to say, have it a wording such as no agreement. They should continue to.
So instead of saying the landowner is currently liaising, say the landowner will continue.
Yes. That would be my motivation.
Chair, I've got no objection. It doesn't materially impact on the situation.
Right, so it would be, and then however no agreement has been reached would be removed. So that's been moved by Commissioner Adair, seconded by Commissioner Hall. Any dissent? That's carried. Thank you very much. Any further discussion or amendments? Okay, so you now have an amended motion ahead of you. Is there any dissent? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. Justin and Aidan, and thanks, Commissioners. That was a very comprehensive discussion.
Ryan,
I'm glad someone picked up what I was putting down.
Okay, so item 3.2, we'll just wait for commissioners to return to the room who have had an interest on the previous item. Yeah.
I think I'm attending this meeting.
You're not getting paid.
Thank you for rejoining us. We're now at item 3.2, which is the improvement scheme development application for Swan Active Ellenbrook Centre, lot 12,062 Cussington Way in Ellenbrook, and this is for determination. So we are joined today by Katrina, Andrew and Mario. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here. We've had a deputation from the city today. They're supportive of the recommendation and they did answer a number of questions from the commission. Do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add, Chair. We provided some questions. Should be
very much. Commissioner Sandry.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I haven't seen that. Can I just have clarification? Was there an answer to my first question, which was regarding proposed condition 4 and 5, and whether they were duplication and essentially asking the same?
Condition 4 relates to architectural features and design treatment, whereas condition 5 relates only to exterior materials and finishes. We acknowledge that both conditions are linked And the advice notes 3 and 4 talk to that. There's a bit of overlap. But we've got 2 separate conditions. So hopefully that gives an explanation.
Any further questions? Commissioner Hall?
Thank you, Chair. Good to see you, Andrew and Mario, again. So just my question is around if there was a minor change to the design, which is natural in a major significant development such as this, what would be the process? Who would approve that?
The best answer I can give to that is that the APC would have to approve minor changes to the proposal if it's approved. That would have to happen in consultation with the City of Swan. Now, in terms of the detail about the processes behind that, there doesn't appear to be any officer delegations from the Commission in terms of dealing with that in this improvement scheme area. We have said in our answer that there may be scope if the Commission want to consider it to include a point to the resolution that may consider delegation to officers minor changes that are consistent with the development approval, or even changes that result in the approval because of condition implementation. So the way I see it is that is open but I just wanted to, that's the best answer I've got to that.
Thank you. And just one more question. So the proposal is right next door to a train station, and there is at-grade car parking as part of this development. So just curious around are there any planning controls for at-grade parking right next door to a train station?
I may let Katrina or Mario go with this question. Yeah.
So with the at-grade car parking, there are no specific parking requirements stipulated for community purpose land use within the Allenbrook Improvement Scheme. The city haven't raised any issues with the number of car parking bays that have been provided through the development application. We do note that as well, the Allenbrook train station car park has not been considered when calculating the number of car bays being provided for the leisure centre. It's anticipated as well, and through discussions previously, that users would also use the public transport as well to utilise the leisure centre, and in that the amount of car parking bays are sufficient for the users of the leisure centre.
Is there any concern that there's too many car bays in such close proximity to a train station?
It hasn't been raised. It's sufficient, and they would have done their analysis on other leisure centres as well and what the number of car park users for that facility, and taking into consideration peak cars and as well, that it would be sufficient.
Thanks.
Thank you all. I raised with the City of Swan the issue of the substantial commitment being 2 years, and they did indicate comfort with that. I wanted to just make sure that that was sufficient and ask a question about whether there's staging associated with the development of the complex that would affect the proportion of substantial commencement, of whether that is a safe number, given that we are sort of dealing with 4-year approvals.
We would only answer that, Chair, that the city are on the front foot with, commencing the earthworks and implementing the proposal. That being said, we have no objection to changing the 2-year commencement to a greater time period, which may just be 4 years. We don't see any risk. We're open to that.
As long as it doesn't slow it down. Any other questions on this item? Okay, all right. Well, I'll ask you then to move and second the item. That's moved by Commissioner Sandry, seconded by Commissioner Lakey. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Sandry?
I would like to modify the commencement period to 4 years. The reason being is that I note that it's $90 million development. I understand there's money budgeted for $108 million and a tender will be out shortly. However, I'm mindful of the construction industry, and whilst they may have readiness, maybe not so much with construction perspective. And I don't foresee that the planning framework would change in that 4-year period substantially. So for those reasons, I move that.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Commissioner Adair. Any discussion? Okay. Any dissent? Thank you, that's carried. Any further discussion?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move an amendment that allows some delegation of any minor changes to the proposal. The reason for this is I'd like to avoid any delays of timeframes having to present back to the Commission. I suggest that be delegated through to chair or officers.
We need to be more specific about which conditions you're delegating and which actions. If it's really to the design, detailed design.
Yeah, I think through your chair, the DPLH officer Andrew outlined a pretty good statement. I base that off.
Okay, well, perhaps if we could just get some clarification on which condition we're adding wording to.
Any real minor changes.
Through the chair, I don't actually think it would be a condition as such. I think it would need to be a separate resolution in terms of providing delegation. Yes, please.
Okay, all right. Do we have a form of words that the officers are comfortable with that captures that?
We think an additional point of the resolution on the go here, but that perhaps delegates decision making to, and this is just on the go, to it could be to the director of Metro North Land Use Planning, could relate to accepting minor changes to the proposal, or to address changes needed to fulfill the conditions of approval.
Yes, I'm going to go to our Chief Planning Advisor on this one before we go any further.
Thank you, Chair. In defence of officers, it's actually very difficult to do these things on the run. I would recommend, if you are wanting to look at a delegation, presumably it's to prevent relatively low-level decisions coming back to the Commission. So I would suggest that you would look at delegating the ability to clear conditions and make minor modifications to plans and conditions as required. But you would need to do that under Section 16 of the Planning and Development Act. So that would actually be a Part B, if you like, of this this resolution. So you might be comfortable doing that now, or you might like us to bring back another report at a different time, but I don't know if we've got one in the works for another time. So we can relatively quickly work up something now if you wanted to do it as part of this item.
Okay, Chair, Kathy, is it okay to do it to an officer level, or should it be the chair?
That's a matter for the Commission to whom you give delegation to. If you, obviously the officers do the actual work, but it's open for you to delegate to the chair, the deputy chair, or whomever you please.
We have had that go with some Part 17 matters, so that has been done in the past, and if that's the Commission's wish, that's fine.
It may depend, sorry, Chair, it may depend on the availability and otherwise busyness of the chair and calls on her time as well as to whether that would be appropriate. Otherwise, potentially, as we said, the director or executive director would be other options.
There's a question. Chair, is everyone saying yeah?
Are you okay?
I just need to settle on the form of words just to make sure, and consistency in terms of do we need some more time to work this through, and we can discuss whether there are any other amendments.
Chair, we might need to just work on a form of words. The delegation for Part 17 reads power to approve detailed plans requiring the subsequent approval of OPC as a condition of development pursuant to the provisions of the P&D Act 2005, and power to confirm that conditions imposed by the Commission on development approval pursuant to the provisions of the P&D Act 2005 I've been
given up.
complied with.
I think so. Can I make a suggestion procedurally? Are we able to hold this item and move on to the next item while the officers
Yeah, I think so.
draft a condition?
Yes, it's our last non-competition.
Oh, so is it hard to come back in and out? Can I propose to adjourn for 3 minutes to allow them to?
Yes, we can, is that necessary or are you comfortable?
We will, I would prefer, if you don't mind, Chair, for us to actually draft something, for you to have a look at it on the screen. So then if there's minor adjustments that you need to make, see what you're approving.
Just before we adjourn, that hasn't been seconded yet, so it's in discussion. So I just want to make sure that before we adjourn, if there's other business on this item, that we clear all of further amendments or discussion. Is there anything further? All right, so we're just going to adjourn for 3 minutes while we get an appropriate form of word on the delegations. Thank you very much, everyone. We had a short adjournment to consider a foreshadowed amendment on delegations for this item, and we have had further advice from the Chief Planning Advisor. So we'll just go to Kathy just to put forward the alternative way forward in dealing with this.
Thank you, Chair. As indicated before the meeting was adjourned, you can obviously delegate this item, or alternatively, anticipated that you wouldn't be looking, or anyone wouldn't be looking to exercise any delegation. It would be unlikely you'd be looking at amended plans or tiering conditions within at least the next 6 months, possibly 12 months. So you do have a bit of time that you could deal with delegation for this item and for any other schemes in a more holistic manner, which may actually give you a more strategic approach to that. We do have in place at the moment some reviews of the delegation instruments to ensure that they're contemporary and streamlined, and so we could, if you wish, add improvement schemes onto that list so that it's then presented to you more as a package rather than an ad hoc decision.
Thank you very much, Kathy.
Through the chair, in your view, should we, however, have a resolution requesting a report to be brought back on delegations associated with this improvement scheme, or can it just be taken as advice?
I think we could just take that as advice. The review of delegations is part of the broader commission reform project, which obviously the majority has been implemented, and we're tidying up bits of the administration. So it is already, if I can put it this way, on the list.
Thank you.
Just a request for that to be minuted but not attached to the development application. So, Commissioner Hall, are you happy with that way forward?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Sounds fine.
Thank you. Are there any further amendments or discussion on this item? Okay, I'll put it, all those in, I'll ask for, no, we've already moved and seconded it. We've now got an amended substantive motion with the 4-year commencement period. Is there any dissent? No, okay, thank you, that's carried. All right, so we are now going to be moving into confidential session for the confidential items on today's agenda. So I would like to ask for a mover and seconder to resolve that we close the meeting to members of the public. That's moved by Commissioner Sanders.